There we go. All right. So, hello, welcome, and happy early Rosh Hashanah. So we are so excited to be here with you tonight for a pre-high holidays cooking demo, part one of two, guided by our very own Liz Madsen, which we're very, very excited to get started. But I just have a few brief housekeeping notes, so bear with me. So first of all, the live caption is running, the automated live caption through Zoom. If you are having any trouble accessing that, please let us know in the chat. Jody is going to be monitoring our chat tonight, so she will be taking care of you and any technical needs you may have. If everyone could please remain on mute until we get to the question and answer period of tonight's event. There will be one, we promise. You are more than welcome to put any questions, comments, introductions, whatever you like in the chat. But if you could just stay on mute throughout the rest of the evening, that will help us all stay focused on Liz and their amazing recipe. Also, we are, as you can see, recording this event. We will be sending out the recording following the event. You will only show up on the recording if you are speaking and your camera's on. So if you don't want to be on that recording, you can put your question in the chat, or if you don't mind your voice being on it and not your picture, you can stop your camera when you speak. And I believe that takes us through our housekeeping. So we are Jewish Veg, for those of you who may not be familiar with us. We are a national nonprofit organization, and we build community to encourage plant-based lifestyles through celebrations and conversations about Jewish values. Tonight, we are celebrating Rosh Hashanah, and I am very happy to introduce Liz Madsen, who, besides being the Jewish Veg Director of Marketing and Communications, and being absolutely brilliant at that, is also absolutely brilliant as a cook and recipe creator. And they are going to walk us through their own recipe for Rosh Hashanah tonight. So Liz, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you.
I have to unmute myself. Sorry. Hi, I'm Liz. Just forewarning, I am super awkward. So we are going to go through this together. I have 3 recipes, and it's kind of almost like 4. So we're going to get through all of this like right now. So I have a medium cabbage, which I've sliced into, I don't think we need to use air quotes, but they're steak-like shapes. But they're definitely just cabbage. And I'm going to mix up a little dressing / marinade for them. So I've got some olive oil here. If you want to do this oil-free, I recommend braising your cabbage in broth and then broiling it when the liquid has cooked off. So, but I'm just going to make it like this today. I've got aquafaba, which is the liquid in a can of chickpeas. And this helps us use less oil, but you can obviously just use all oil or mix the olive oil with broth if you prefer. So I'm going to add that into my oil, and then I'm going to add, I have to put this down for a second because I'm going to add, I have 3 cloves of minced garlic, and don't worry about writing down amounts because you're going to get a whole recipe booklet for Rosh Hashanah with, oh gosh, 18 recipes, including these 3 to maybe tomorrow. I hope tomorrow, soon, before the next one. So I'm going to add all that garlic. See, this is where the awkward comes into place. But that's okay. It makes it more fun, or at least realistic. And now I'm going to add salt, pepper, and I like to add caraway seasoning. This was actually my mom's idea, and it's awesome. But if you don't like it, don't use what you like. Then I'm just going to whisk this up. And then I still find uses for my other tools after going vegan. So here's my basting brush, and I'm going to baste the cabbage. We're going to baste both sides so they get nice and coated. If you have any loose pieces of cabbage that are kind of falling off, don't worry. In fact, make sure you include those because they get extra crispy and delicious, and then you can eat them before you serve your guests as a chef's snack. That's what I do anyway. So I'm just gonna apply a liberal amount of the dressing to the cabbage, making sure to, I don't know, use all of it. Almost done with this side, and then I'm going to grab my spatula and flip all of these over. And you're going to get your hands a little messy, but that's okay. Keep those delicious sides in there. It's like kind of like Brussels sprouts too. I love those little leaves that get extra crispy in the oven. Okay, that's all flipped. There's my sauce. Ooh, getting a little slippery here. So I'm just going to, you could also pour this on and do it with your hands, and it's a lot faster. But if I get oil all over me now, then everything, I'm going to become a Butterfingers. So a vegan Butterfingers. So. Okay. Then if you have a little extra, just throw it on there. Gonna be delicious, right? Okay. So I'm gonna whack this in my oven. 425 degrees. I'm gonna set a timer for about 20 minutes to rotate the cabbage halfway through so they're all cooking pretty evenly. So now we'll move on to the carrots. This is like a complex order of everything, but we can do it, okay? So you're gonna add your pomegranate juice. This works with any juice, by the way. Orange juice is really nice in this, but pomegranate seems very festive. Apple cider would also be good. So here's some organic brown sugar. This will work with coconut sugar or any kind of sweetener, maple syrup, date sugar. I'm adding a little bit of tahini because I like the little hint of sesame flavor that it adds, but it's totally optional. You could also do sesame oil if that's what you have. I would do like a teaspoon of sesame oil versus like a tablespoon of tahini. And then I just have salt and pepper here. So I'm going to heat this over medium-low heat until the brown sugar dissolves. If I can figure out which burner it is. So I'm just stirring everything until the tahini is not going to perfectly dissolve, but don't worry, it's not going to look funky later. They're just going to look like delicious little glazed carrots. So I have my chopped carrots here. You can chop them any way you want, just kind of chop them so they're all similar thicknesses so they cook relatively evenly. Doesn't have to be perfect, mine never are. So I've got a baking dish here. I am going to grease this, but really it's still going to be kind of messy. But that's okay. We like messy. You could use parchment paper to save on the mess, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to add my carrots here, kind of press them down in a flat layer. Stir my, oh yeah. This is pretty much a liquid now. I can't really see it, but I'm going to pour it over the carrots. I'm just going to scrape out what's left in the pot and give it just a little gentle stir so everything has an even coating of delicious pomegranate-y, sugary goodness. In all these recipes, you can mess around with the seasonings and do the seasonings that you like. I didn't grab foil. 1 second.
And while they're grabbing foil, I'm seeing a couple questions in the chat about getting the recipes. So I promise you will be receiving these recipes following our event today. Go ahead, Liz.
I was actually like literally like testing the recipe like this morning, like retesting the rice because I found like a new method to make the rice even easier and better to cook. So I wanted to make sure it was the absolute best it could be. So we're going to pop it in the oven. The beauty with this is that you can cook them at the same time in the same temperature as the cabbage. Put that in my oven, and then let me see, what is my cooking time for the carrots? We're going to do 15 minutes uncovered, so I'm going to use my microwave timer for that. Timer. And then after we remove the foil, we'll just cook it uncovered till all that liquid cooks off. Okay, so now we'll start on the rice. I'm gonna do my best to talk to you while also like cooking at my stove, which is actually behind. So start with a small to medium saucepan that has a tight fitting lid, really important. I also recommend one that has a glass lid so you can see what your rice is doing without removing the lid and, you know, getting rid of all that delicious steam that's cooking your rice. So I'm gonna heat that to medium high. And again, I am using oil, but you can definitely cook without oil. I am going to toast the rice first for a few minutes with the oil and the spices. I do not recommend toasting it if you're not cooking with oil because the rice will just burn. So I'm going to add my oil to the pan. In a perfect world, I'd let that heat for a little bit before adding the rice, but we just don't have time for that today. So I have 1 1/3 cups of jasmine rice. Again, you will get all the amounts. I can't stop myself from saying it. And I have all these delicious seasonings. These are, you can choose your own, but I have salt, pepper, cumin, onion, granulated onion, turmeric, and sweet paprika. Instead of the turmeric, you could do saffron, which would probably be a more authentic flavor, but it's definitely out of my price range. So we're using turmeric. So I'm going to add my rice. Oh, spill some over your counter. That's important. And I'm going to add the seasonings directly in there. And then I'm going to take my spatula and give it a good stir. And I'm going to stir it for about a minute or two, just constantly. Because this keeps it from burning if you stir it constantly, but you're also getting the rice equally coated with all the spices and the oil so that the rice is nicely flavored with all of the spices. And then also you don't have any clumps of spices, which is preferable. And you can use any rice you want here. Just keep in mind that my instructions are just for white jasmine rice, so you'll need to adjust time and cooking liquid accordingly. Just cook it according to whatever the package directions are. That's what I do. Just with the addition of toasting it in the spices. Okay, that's good. And now I'm going to add my vegetable broth, and you can use water or whatever you want. That's a good noise. We like that noise. So I'm going to give it one more stir, and I'm going to bring it to a rapid simmer uncovered. Because if we do it covered, then the risk is that the rice could boil over before we turn down the heat. In the meantime, I'm going to be using this can of chickpeas because I'm actually using the aquafaba for the cabbage steaks. So we're gonna bring this into the rice at the end. So I've got the same seasonings, just less of them. And I'm gonna sprinkle those into my chickpeas. Almost caused a catastrophe there. I'm just gonna give these a stir. Again, we're just gonna make a big mess. You could bake these in the oven. I am running out of oven space and my brain cannot handle doing double oven. I just can't do it. So I have an air fryer here and I'm just going to air fry these for like 10 minutes. I'm not going to start it yet. I'm not going to start it yet though. Okay, my rice is at a rapid simmer. So I'm going to turn down the heat. You can do medium low or low. I'm on a power burner. So I'm going to keep it at close to low. I've got my lid on. I've got it low to medium low, and I'm setting a timer. Oh, I'm already using that timer. I'm using this timer. Multiple recipes problems. This is a problem, but it's okay. Okay, so for 12 minutes, we'll let that simmer, and then we're going to check and see if the moisture has, or if the liquid has all evaporated, just using the lid. Like, we're going to tilt the pot just slightly so you can see if all the water has cooked off. It's a really neat trick. And if you do not have a glass lid, just really quickly remove that lid, check it, and put it right back on. And if you need to cook it more, cook it more. If all the water has evaporated, or the broth has evaporated or soaked, I'm not talking right. If it's soaked in, then you can take it off the heat and let it sit with the cover on for 10 minutes to finish cooking. Okay, I think, no, we're not done. We're almost done. We've got, for now, we've got another lined pan. And I have some chopped walnuts here. Any nut seed will work, or you can skip this. This is a topping for the cabbage when it comes out of the oven. And it's entirely optional. You can do fresh herbs. I just like this. And we're going to see if I can fit it in my oven. Good, that's fun. Okay, that'll work. And we don't have a timer, so we're going to play walnut roulette here, and hopefully the walnuts will not burn. Check them in like 5 minutes and make sure they have not burned. You can also toast these ahead of time and store them in a container on your counter. That would have been smart. When we pre-plan, that's what we do. Okay, I am done for now. Hopefully that was the right timing, and I will see you all in a bit.
Thank you, Liz. So Liz is going to come back in a bit, but in the meantime, I get to talk to you for a minute about Rosh Hashanah. So, yeah, if you missed it earlier, that is Ali Halpert's Baby Bird Nigun, which I thought was appropriate as we come into this season of celebrating the birth of the world. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, one of them, but it's also more than that. It is the birthday party of the world itself. It's the anniversary of the world's creation. And today happens to be another anniversary for me personally. 19 years ago today, August 30th, I became a vegan. I was 14 at the time. I thought I was very grown up. And according to Jewish law, in some ways I was a grown up. The year before that, I had become a bat mitzvah. I'd stood on the bima and read from the Torah, and I had declared my commitment to my culture and my heritage and to the principles and values that guide us as a Jewish people. It wasn't necessarily conscious, the connection between that and my veganism, but I knew what I believed. I believed, and I believe, that life is sacred, and I believed, and I believe, that I could make choices, real choices, that could make a real impact in the world. And 19 years later, if you check out a vegan calculator online, and Jody's going to put a link in the chat for me for people who are curious, 19 years of veganism has saved 208,000 square feet of forest, over 7.5 million gallons of water, and just about 7,000 lives. Obviously, those aren't hard numbers, but that impact is real. And the best thing about it is that it's not just me. It's not one person. It's all of us together as a community and what we can do together. August 30th, 2004 was my first day of high school. I was entering a brand new world and I didn't know what to expect. And it might have been a little different, but when the very first human being was created in the Garden of Eden, when the world began, as Rosh Hashanah celebrates, you can bet they didn't know what to expect either. In our story of creation, God separates the night and the day, God separates the sky and the earth and the sea, and God makes all the living creatures of the world. All the baby birds and whales and salamanders and foxes and cats and bears and cows, and then God makes the first human being. In modern parlance, we tend to call this being Adam, but the Hebrew word is actually ha-adam, and it comes from the Hebrew word for earth, Adamah. So ha-adam isn't really a name, it's a description of a living being made from earth. And God makes this earth being and breathes life into them and tells them, this is the world I have made for you. This is the world you are to care for. There's a reason it's a garden. It's this living world that, far from being exclusive to human work and life, is dependent upon it for the survival of all. And in this garden, our tradition's vision of paradise, that we have carried with us as a people for thousands and thousands of years, God says to Ha-Adam, to the earth being, look around you at all these fruits and plants. They shall be your food. Not the animals, not the fish, not the cows, not the baby chickens. Our Jewish Torah vision of paradise is a world where all are vegan. When I first became vegan, I didn't really know what I was doing. I did not know how to cook. I could make mac and cheese for my little sister, and that was about it. So I got a cookbook, and I don't remember what it was called, which I did, and I started to learn. I am not Liz. I am not ever going to be leading a cooking demo, and you can all breathe a sigh of relief about that. I will leave that to them. But I did learn. There was a lot of trial and error and a couple fires, but I did learn. And one of the best things about human beings, about all of us earth beings, is our capacity to learn. Our capacity to grow and to change and to commit and to make choices. Our text tells us that God makes Ha-Adam B'Tselem Elohim in God's own image. God the Creator, God who makes the whole world. What world do we want to make? After the garden, the story changes. We come to the time of Noah and the flood, when God is so frustrated at human beings' violence that they destroy the whole world and start anew. And Noah, who by the way is over 600 years old, rises to the challenge. Noah builds a boat, and it rains, and Noah and family finally come out onto dry land, and now God says, okay, I gave you the plants to eat before, now you can eat meat. But in the garden, there's a story about Ha-Adam naming the animals. God brings the animals before Ha-Adam, and whatever Ha-Adam calls them, that is their name. To call someone by their name is to recognize them, to offer trust and respect and awareness of a personhood. And now, to Noah, God says, the animals will fear and dread you. And God says you can eat the animals, but you must not eat their blood. For in the blood is the life, and life is sacred. God gives Noah, and by extension, God gives humanity a choice to make. And they set out signposts. They give us guidelines back to that original ideal of a world of peace and companionship and trust. The first restriction on what we do or do not eat as Jews that we take on is not to eat blood. Others come later. what animals we can or can't eat, or what parts of them, what ways we can cook them, how we can eat them or not eat them. All of those laws, all of the kosher laws, the Jewish dietary guidelines, regulate eating animals and animal products. Why is that? We have never lost that original ideal. Our ancestors knew, just as we know that there were choices to make, and just as we do, they made the choices that they had to. But that awareness has never left us as a people, that there could be a better way, that there is something to yearn for and something to build towards, something that we have the power to create. Yada-da-da-dum-ba-dum-bum. Yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da. Yada-da-da-dum-ba-dum-bum. Yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da. Later in Jewish text, in the book of prophets, there's a beautiful passage by the prophet Isaiah, who speaks of a vision of a world to come. In that day, Isaiah says, speaking in the voice of God, in that day, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, the lion lie down with the kid, and the lion like the ox shall eat straw. Just like in the Garden of Eden, just like in our vision of the state in which the world was born, where everyone was vegan, so our story tells us we shall return to that paradise. But Judaism is not a passive tradition. We don't sit around and wait. It is our job and our purpose to build the world that we want to see. We are made b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. We are creators, we are world builders, and that means Rosh Hashanah is not just an anniversary. Every year we celebrate the birthday of the world, but the world is always being born. We are always being born, and every year, as we come into this season, we have the opportunity to reflect, to look back, to look ahead, and to make a choice about what world we want to create. We may not always know what we're doing. We may not know what to expect, and that can be scary and strange and lonely. But like Ha'adam in the garden, we are not alone. You are not alone. We are building this world together. And if you, like me, are maybe not the most confident in the kitchen, but you're willing to try and to learn, there is a whole world out there of amazing vegan recipes, like the one Liz is guiding us through tonight. So before I hand the floor back over to them and check in with them and see where we are, may we be blessed with courage, with commitment, with faith in ourselves and our choices, in what we can create, and may we be blessed with a very happy and a very sweet new year. Shana Tova. How are we doing, Liz?
That was beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. I always love hearing your teachings. They're amazing. And also, Mazel Tov on your vegan anniversary. That's amazing. My rice. Oh, I gotta turn this off because my rice is done. This is dangerous, but I tilted it and checked. There, you can't see, but there is no liquid remaining. So I'm gonna take this off the heat, and I'm gonna set the timer on my phone for 10 minutes. That's my rice timer, and it's going to sit undisturbed. And then when it's done, I want to point this out. Use a hard rubber spatula, or maybe this is silicone. It's hard though, or a rice paddle, to gently fluff the rice. And this is important. Ignore my oven. This is important because we don't want to break the rice. Jasmine rice is very soft rice. It's easily broken, especially when it's just cooked. So you don't want to use anything like a wooden spoon or a metal spoon where you're going to smash the grains, and which makes your rice more mushy and less textured. So this, or a rice paddle. And if you stain your silicone turmeric, like I have, and your rubber turmeric, you can just put it outside in the sun and it will fix itself. Okay, so now that my oven is going off, I'm just going to rotate the tray of cabbage. Yeah, I hear you. it is also time for me to remove the carrot oil. So I'm going to do that. Oh, shut up. Okay. So I remove the foil from the carrots. There is quite a bit. I'm going to rotate that one too. There's quite a bit of liquid in there, but it's going to cook off. Do not worry. I'm going to give it a little stir. Okay. All right. I'm resetting my cabbage timer over here for about 22 minutes. Just making sure that's actually turning on. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to set my carrot timer for, let's see here. I think we're going to do about 25 minutes. Whoops. That would be my water in there. So timer. There we go. Okay, and now that our rice is almost done, we can rehydrate our dried fruit. So this is a variety of dried fruit. You can use what you like, what you have. This is chopped dried figs, dried cherries, golden raisins, and apricots. So use what you like, what you have. I promise it's so good in the rice. So I'm going to add water to this. And I'm going to let it rehydrate just a little bit so you don't have any hard dried fruit in there. It'll be nice and soft and moist. I'll drain off that water when the rice is done. So we've got, yep, I'm done for like 7 minutes. Does that work? See, you have to kind of fly by the seat of your pants with me.
Okay, so let's do, if people have questions, we can do a brief question and answer period now, and then we'll do another one later. Is that right, Liz? Okay. Vanessa, I see your hand. And let me remove the spotlight.
Thank you, Sarah. I have a question. The distinction between permission to eat animals but not blood, I'm wondering if there's any further rationale, because it seems like splitting hairs, and it seems like it's wasteful to not drink the blood if you're going to eat the meat.
That is an awesome question. So yeah, let me do this here. Okay, so right, what happens when we get to that point in the story? We've just had God destroy the whole world because we've been such horrible, violent people that God basically says, this isn't good enough. This isn't what I wanted. I'm going to start over and try again. And so what happens, and this is according to, there's a rabbinic authority sage called Rav Kook, Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook, who writes about this time and says, basically what happens is that this God recognizes that the standards were set too high, that this idea that we could live in this paradise and live in this nonviolent way must have been too hard for us. And that's why we kind of dissolved into this chaos. And so because we're at this lowest spiritual state, God makes a concession, and it's meant to be a temporary concession that, okay, you're coming into this new world, you're trying to start over. I can't keep my standards quite as high as they were, but let me put some of those signposts here for you. So it starts with the blood. It starts with the, yes, you can eat meat, but you have to think about it. You have to think about how you're going to do it. You have to think about what that cooking process is going to be like and how you're going to go about it. You're not just going to be, tearing animals apart and eating them raw. And from there, we start getting more and more restrictions. And that's where the laws of kashrut come in, as those signposts start to kind of build up and guide us back to that original ideal. So where that puts us right now is that we're in that kind of middle period where we've come from this time of Noah and the flood. We've built up these guidelines and restrictions, and we're heading towards that vision of the Garden of Eden restored as in Isaiah. Does that answer your question, Vanessa?
Yeah, so it's in a sense arbitrary. It's really just so that humans have some level of mindfulness.
Right. Right. So you could absolutely talk about the laws of kashrut as being this, ancient wisdom around mindful eating. When we have to think about not eating blood and not eating, dairy and meat together and not eating insects and what animals have cloven hooves and which ones don't, we're thinking about where our food comes from and what we're eating and how we're eating it. And we're, again, all of those restrictions being made on eating animals and animal products.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. How are we doing on time, Liz?
3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Who's got a 3-minute and 20-second question? Doesn't have to be for me, it can be for Liz.
I have one. Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. Liz, did you flip the cabbage steaks or no?
I only flipped them when I was applying the marinade beforehand. They'll cook on the underside too.
Okay, thank you.
I definitely recommend using something on your baking sheet, either parchment or a silicone baking mat to keep it from sticking. But that underside will get nice and caramelized and delicious.
Thank you.
That was a good question. Okay. I'm gonna use this time actually to drain the dried fruit. Mine was actually pretty moist, so I don't really have to drain it too much. Sorry for using a word that people hate. But if your dried fruit is exceptionally dry and hard, then I would definitely recommend rehydrating it in just boiled water or hot water. Okay. I have 2 minutes.
All right, I see a question in the chat if you want me to take that one.
Please do.
Here, let me throw myself up here. Okay, so the question in the chat, doesn't the blood separate us from the animals as well? Animals cannot separate the blood, right? Yeah, interesting question. There is a separation in Jewish text between non-human animals and human beings. That absolutely exists in Jewish text. So there is kind of an added level of responsibility on the human being, as we see in that Garden of Eden, the human being created to till and tend the earth, created to care for the earth and the rest of the animals. And the animals have their own lives and selves and souls, but they don't have that same kind of level of responsibility that in our text the human beings are given. So there is a separation there, and you're right that the kosher laws are applied to human beings, not to non-human animals. There is, by the way, there's one thing that is interesting about it is that none of the kosher animals are predators. We are specifically not to eat predatory animals. And I could go on about that for a long time, but I don't want to take over Liz's time here. But they might be checking on something, so.
I was dumb and forgot to start the air fryer chickpeas. So that's okay because we kind of serve them on top as a garnish. Said I wasn't going to use air quotes, darn it. Okay, so we have, oh, perfect. We have literally like 6 seconds left on our timer. So I'm going to get the rice in 1 second. Okay, Matt, I turned you off. So I have rice here, putting it on. Ooh, that's a hot lid. Next time use oven mitts, Liz. And the spatula. So all the liquid has absorbed. And if you can kind of see, there's these little black dots in the rice. They're holes where the liquid has evaporated or. So I'm going to gently fluff my rice. And it turned out perfect, which is awesome. I definitely recommend for this much rice, like around a cup and a half, a cup and a third of dry rice. Don't use a huge wide pot because then the rice is going to spread out too much and it's going to burn before it has a time to hydrate inside. That was my problem for a long time. So now we have our perfect perfect rice. And I'm going to add the final things. I have all my dried fruit here. You might want to transfer this to a larger bowl. And I have lemon zest and lemon juice. I have the juice of a medium lemon because I like it really lemony. I would add half, unless you know that you, like me, are very big into acidy flavors. So I'm just giving this a nice toss. Okay. Here is our rice. I still managed to spill it everywhere. And I'm going to take this out, give myself a nice serving here. Hopefully the chickpeas will be done before we're done tonight and we can show them off. But I am going to add a few of these pomegranate arils. I could not find whole pomegranates yet. I prefer to use those, not these pre-made cups, but it is a little early for me to be finding fresh pomegranates. But you can also use whatever you like to garnish it. Parsley would be great. And then we'll have our chickpeas. So we have our rice. And then, let's see, did I touch this yet? But yeah, our walnuts did not burn, surprisingly, because I did kind of forget about them. And then while Sarah was sharing her amazing story, I was like, oh yeah, the walnuts. They're fine. They smell really good. They're nice and toasty. Okay, so I have 14 minutes left on the carrots and about 14 minutes left on the cabbage. So if we have any activities for 14 minutes, that would be great.
Sure. Okay, so we can take lots of questions now. And I think what we'll do is we will have you show at the very end, Liz, the finished product. Does that work?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. And let me take off your spotlight there. All right. So I saw a question for you in the chat, but now I'm not finding it.
Sarah,
Yes.
the question is from Michelle. Question for Liz. When you're no, sorry. How do we think cabbage steaks would do batch cooked in the air fryer, maybe after the chickpeas are roasted?
Yes, I think that's a great question. I have done it and they are great. I would recommend, so here's the deal. When you air fry them from raw, they can get kind of dried out. So you want to make sure that you are basting it every few minutes with oil, or B, you could cook it in a pan or in the oven. You could braise it with vegetable broth for a little while, and you could prep that in advance and then just air fry it when you're ready to serve it for a few minutes so that all that liquid kind of comes out, because right, like our air fryer is actually pulling liquid out of the vegetables to crisp them up. It's like a countertop convection oven. So that's what I would recommend. The reason I really like baking and roasting the steaks is that not all the liquid is pulled out and it's kind of getting the oils helping the outer leaves of the cabbage caramelize on the surface. But I think it would definitely work.
Okay, and I saw another question in the chat from Steve. Why does God not stop their children or creation from killing each other, or for that matter, desecrating planetary creation? Yeah, the free will, right? Basically the whole point of us as the creations of God is that choice, that we have the ability to make the choices about what we're going to do in this world and how we're going to live in this world. That's what it means to be B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. So there's a story, a midrash, about God taking Ha'adam around the Garden of Eden and saying, take care with this world. Do not destroy it, because if you destroy it, there is no one to repair it after you. That's our responsibility. Are there other questions?
Sarah, there's another question in the chat. people who keep kosher often justify it by thinking it is more humane, but I don't think that is the case, is it?
That is not the case, and thank you for asking. Yes, kosher slaughterhouses. So first of all, 99% of all animal products that are available for consumption in the United States come from factory farms. Kosher products are not an exception. Kosher animals are raised, such as it is, in the exact same factory farms as non-kosher animals. The only difference is the slaughterhouse itself. So they are already in the same miserable conditions as all of the other animals in factory farms throughout the country. In terms of kosher slaughter, keep in mind that the kosher slaughter and kashrut in general was a system designed at a time when things were very different. There was no mass industrialized animal agriculture at the time. And so kosher slaughterhouses, from the perspective of animal well-being, are already not going to be great. And also because of this issue of them coming from these factory farms. And let's talk about the environmental impact, the human rights impact, and the way that these kosher slaughterhouses and kosher products do what we call humane washing. If you want to check out more about this issue of the kosher industry and how there's humane washing and kosher washing is I think what they call it, check out the Jewish Initiative for Animals. They have a whole campaign about this, and you can learn more about how the kosher industry kind of takes advantage of this myth that kosher products are more humane, which they are not. So that's Jewish Initiative for Animals, or JIFA. You can also find something about that on our website, jewishveg.org. All right, are there any other questions, or should I pass to Jody to finish us up, and then Liz can show the product as our actual conclusion? How about that? Yeah, all right. Unless I'm gonna give a second though for anyone if they want to raise their hand or speak up.
If we have time, I feel like I have very nerdy questions, but I would be curious to know why the animals considered kosher are all non-predatory. Is that not to disrupt the ecosystem?
So
But yeah, I would love to know more about that.
you're gonna get me on my whole nerdy spiel here. So there's a whole, in the ancient world, and in a lot of ancient myth and story, there's this kind of understanding about, the phrase "you are what you eat," right? You eat something, you're bringing that essence, that that essence into yourself. And so that's why in a lot of stories you'll see things about eating the heart of an animal, or eating or a person, and bringing in those characteristics. And so a lot of the ways in which that was talked about or thought about, or storied about, was around the strength, and the the physicality, and being able to take that predator and kind of show the strength, and how we're better than that predator. And Judaism said we are explicitly not going to do that. We are explicitly not going to eat predatory animals. We're going to align ourselves in this kind of framework with not being violent, and not being, from this level of brute force and strength. So I actually think that is a really fascinating choice that came into being in terms of how we were going to think about what it meant to eat what we eat. That we were explicitly basically saying we're not bringing in this sense of violence into our bodies and into ourselves. That's a very quick standing on one foot version. Okay, and I'm sorry, I took a glance at the chat, and there's a very big question in there, Steve, that I would love to talk to you about, but I don't think we have time for now. So email me afterwards, sarah@jewishveg.org. All right, Jody, you want to take us through?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah. And Liz. And so I am Jody Graber. I am the Director of Development for Jewish Veg. And I want to thank all of you so much for joining us this evening. We have been preparing, and Liz has been prepping in her kitchen, in their kitchen for a very long time. And we appreciate everything that you are doing, Liz. And so I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Liz, as I said, and Sarah for your beautiful chanting and teaching. They are pretty amazing colleagues, and I am very blessed to work with them. And the three of us are really grateful that you have joined us this evening. And for those who will be watching the recording and perhaps cooking along with Liz, it really is an honor to have all of you a part of our community. And there is still time for your friends and family to join us next week, Wednesday, September 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And anyone who registers now will get the recording of this evening, as well as the full recipe booklet. I believe Sarah has just put that link in the chat. And so we invite you to invite your friends and family to join us next week. And I'm happy to tell you that in addition to Liz being in their kitchen, at Jewish Veg, we have been very busy. We've been connecting to rabbis and cantors, rabbinic students like our own Sarah, about our rabbinic statement. In 2017, 75 rabbis and Jewish clergy signed a statement about plant-based eating and Judaism, what we are talking about here this evening. And the signatories of the statement included clergy from all denominations, all movements of Judaism. All of them encourage their fellow Jews to transition toward animal-free, plant-based diets. I am very excited to share that now in 2023, over 200 clergy have signed the statement, more than doubled. And you may have already received an email about this, and you will hear more about this at next week's session, because we're really proud of this and because we want this information to go far and wide. And so I'm sharing with you now because we here at Jewish Veg need your support. We need your support so we can share this rabbinic statement and its vital message about the connection between Judaism and veganism throughout this country, Canada, Israel, Europe, the world. The more people that we can reach with this information, the greater the impact the statement will have. We know that climate change is wreaking havoc around the world. We know that animals need our love and attention to free them from the horrors of animal agriculture. And yesterday, there was a segment on Good Morning America about blue zones and longevity. And they shared the secret to a long life, a plant-based diet. And they said, if you're eating a cup of beans a day, you're probably not only getting all your protein and most of your fiber, but it's also associated with living an extra 4 years. People need to hear this. Sometimes they need to hear it over and over again, that a plant-based lifestyle is so powerful for so many reasons. We are very blessed that 225 people registered for this series for tonight and next week, and to receive the recording. Many of those people, many of you on this call, on our event tonight, have already donated. And I want to say for that, we are extremely grateful. Honestly, we are so appreciative. And we figured out if everyone who registered for this series would donate $36 double high, we could raise over $8,000. That money can do a lot of good for our health, for the planet, and for animals. So we really need your support to help us get this message out through our events, through our speaking engagements. I'm going up to a synagogue in New Rochelle next week to speak, and then certainly on social media. Sarah, I know, is going to help me out and put the link in the chat. And I want to say, if you aren't able to donate $36, please contribute if you can. What is meaningful for you, every dollar helps. And every dollar can help our planet and the animals we all care so much about. So I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means so much to Liz, Sarah, and me to start the holiday season with you. And we are looking forward to seeing you again next week. So I will also say, L'Shana Tova Umatuka. We wish you a happy, healthy, and sweet new year.
And we're coming back to Liz to see how we're doing on showing off our finished product.
We're awesome. I still have to get the carrots on the plate. Missing one, but here was our finished cabbage steaks. They turned out great. And like I told you, this right here, one of the little leaves, this is the chef's snack. This is delightful. It's crispy, but it's also tender. It's so flavorful, and it's all mine. And here are the carrots. So all the liquid has absorbed. They are nice and caramelized. They taste just like my grandmother's glazed candied carrots. So I'm really excited. And I don't have that recipe, but I do have a lot of her recipes. My grandmother on my mom's side was a Jewish caterer for 50 years, 60 years. So yeah, I think that maybe it's in my blood to want to cook. So I have my carrots and I give myself a pretty generous portion here. Although I'm pretty sure my husband will take this plate for himself. And see if I can do this without spilling everywhere. We have rice with roasted chickpea or air fried chickpeas on top, pomegranate arils, seeds, and we have a cabbage steak with toasted walnuts on top. And then we have the candied carrots with pomegranate roasted carrots. So bon appetit, or whatever that is in Hebrew. What is that in Hebrew? Rabbi?
Bone.
I love it. That's perfect. So thank you all for joining us and for staying with me as I make a complete mess of my kitchen.
Thank you all so much. We will see you next week, and you will be getting all of the recipes in your email tomorrow. And we are very, very grateful for your time here with us tonight. Shana Tova. See you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lashana Tova.